if you have really good and value-adding AI in your app, people often have a problem finding it. And to shed light on that, it's an honor to welcome on stage Kate Moran, VP of Research and Content at the Nielsen Group. Give her a warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. Oh my God, there's a lot of you here. I was told that when this room is full, it's something around 1,500 people. But I do want to share with you that there's one person in the audience who's very special to me, and it is my husband, John. And he is not in our industry. He's not techie at all. He's kind of a Luddite. But he's here to see me, and this is the very first time he's ever seen me do this. So it would really help me out if you guys could make me look good in front of John. If you guys could... You can laugh at my jokes, maybe, and make him think I'm cool. That would be great. Just kidding. We've been together for about 15 years now, so he already knows that I'm a nerd. And speaking of nerds, I'm from Nielsen Group. You may know us as NNG or NN Group. Just curious, who's familiar with this company, my company? Oh, a lot of people. Okay, great. I do find that a lot of UX folks are very familiar with us, but sometimes people on the product side are not so much. If you do know us, you may know that we're quite well known for our research. We do a lot of research. We describe ourselves as big research nerds. We do a range of methodologies, basically every research methodology that you might use to study user behaviors and preferences. But our favorite method, our favorite approach, really tends to be qualitative, especially interviews and usability testing. And the reason that those methods are so special to us is because we strongly believe that the best way to understand the people that we're creating digital experiences for is to talk to them, to listen to them, to watch them use our products, to try to understand their lives and their preferences and their workflows. So we spend a lot of time doing that, and this is the team that does that work. So this was a photo that we took after a team building activity that we did a few years ago. The team has grown a little bit since then, but I often find that people assume that because NNG, we publish a lot of research, we're kind of like doing a lot of activity in the industry, people assume that we're a bigger company than we really are. This activity that we did, by the way, was zip lining. And when you get strapped into a harness and thrown off a mountain, it's a really good team building exercise, we found. But so these are the people who do that research and analyze the data and describe the findings. And we do publish a lot of those findings for free. So we offer premium training, premium consulting. But in addition to that, we try to publish as much free guidance as we possibly can through our articles and our videos and our social media. And that's because we really believe that's an important way that we can give back to this community. And the things that we tend to study are things that we think will be relevant and interesting and helpful to a lot of different product teams. So who has been in the industry long enough to remember when the hamburger menu icon, those 3 lines, that was controversial? People were, yeah, everyone was fighting about it. Okay, a lot of people. So then you may remember that NNG at that time, we were doing research and we were like, yeah, some people don't understand what this means. So you have to be careful when you use that. That has changed, by the way. It's now become an accepted standard. But we do these kinds of research projects, and we share them with all of you to try to help end some of those arguments that you might be having on your teams. Right now, a lot of the arguments you may be having or the questions that you and your team may have probably have to do with AI. Now, I know I'm like, at least the 3rd speaker to get up here and talk about AI in a row. So like, anybody feeling a little bit of the AI fatigue? We've tired of listening and talking about AI a little bit. It's okay to admit it. I feel that way, and it's my job to do this. And there's been a lot of really great conversation around these kinds of questions. I've certainly seen in this conference so far a lot of conversation about how we can use AI in our own work. But what I want to do today is narrow in on a specific type of question and really think about how people are using AI. And when I say people, I don't mean necessarily people like us, right? I mean generally consumers. You might call them normies. People who are not as techy as we tend to be. And in particular today, I want to talk about how and why people are not using AI features if you're building them into your product. And who's doing that? Who is currently or in the past you've put an AI feature or it's on the roadmap somewhere? Okay, most of us, yeah. I'm willing to bet that you and your team would prefer that that is not a total waste of time. So we already answered this question. Let me tell you about why we're seeing in our research people are not using these AI features that are being introduced. And I'm going to go through 3 reasons. First, they have no reason to use that thing. There's no value in it. It doesn't solve a problem for them. It's not useful. It's a pretty big reason why somebody wouldn't bother to use an AI feature. Number 2, they don't see it. They don't know that it's there. They don't know that it exists. And number 3, they don't know how to use it. Or maybe they kind of can figure out how to use it for some things, but they're really just scratching the surface of what they could potentially do with this feature or product. Now, I do want to point out, this is not an exhaustive list, right? There are other reasons why your users, your customers, might choose not to use your AI feature. For example, some people have very legitimate hesitations to use AI for ethical reasons. I personally believe that we shouldn't try to force or trick those people into using AI if they have that perspective. Additionally, if you are working in a context like you're building an enterprise product, you're building something B2B, if there's a lot riding on what the AI is doing for that user, there's going to be trust issues. And this is a big topic of conversation. We have more work to do to investigate that particular problem. But before you can even worry about whether or not people trust your AI feature, you have to tackle these first 3 issues. So I'm going to start with number 1. They have no reason to use it. Now, I will say this was a particularly big problem around 2023, 2024, when ChatGPT became publicly accessible, and everybody got so excited about AI. AI is going to be the future, and everybody was trying to figure out how can we cram AI into our products. Now, we are at a professional conference here, so I'm willing to bet most, if not all of you, are on LinkedIn. And if you were on LinkedIn in 2023, you may have noticed some of their attempts to cram AI into their interface. And this was one of my favorites. So LinkedIn, in late 2023, introduced this feature that I've highlighted in pink, which is follow-up questions. So for every single post that was on your feed, if you were a premium subscriber, now that's probably a pretty important user segment for LinkedIn, right? The people that actually pay them money. So they did this to their highest value user group. Keep that in mind. You would see this at the bottom of every single post on your feed, these AI-generated follow-up questions. And this one is from the screenshot here is from a post that our team at NNG did back in 2023. And the suggested follow-up question is, when should you use open-ended questions in user interviews? Well, what an excellent question. That was a question that was already answered in the post itself. So this really has no reason to exist. This really has no purpose. And it was funny because when LinkedIn released this in 2023, they were very excited about it. They were very proud of it. They did this very optimistic press release. And then less than a year later, they quietly retired the feature without making any press releases. And I'm willing to bet they did that because nobody was using it. Maybe they also did it because people were making fun of them. Now, here's the thing. When a feature, any feature, AI or otherwise, when it has no reason to exist, when it offers no user value, guess who's going to know? Who's going to know that? Even if your team doesn't know that, who's going to know that there's no value? The users. The users are going to know. And they will mock you mercilessly.
Hey, guess what? We have a new feature. Is it AI? It's going to make the whole, everything, all of the stuff you do just better. I don't want it. I just don't. Just give me the thing without the AI. Not a thing, I'm afraid. No. Okay, well, I'm not going to use it then. I'm just not going to use any of it. But we've got AI. He spent so much money on this.
So if you couldn't hear what she mumbled at the end of that clip, she said, but we spent so much money on this, right? We don't want to be in that situation. By the way, this is also a great illustration of the fact that it's got AI or it's AI powered. Those are not value propositions. Users don't give a shit about that. They don't care that it's powered by AI if it doesn't solve their problem. And this is something we all already knew, right? We already knew that people don't really care about the technology. They care about the outcome. They care about how it's improving their life or their job. So this was particularly a big issue, 2023, 2024. I feel like we're all starting to move past this, sort of collectively. We're making some progress away from those kind of slapdash attempts to cram AI into anything we can. At least that's my hope. But I won't spend much more time on this particular issue because Dave Crawford of Microsoft is going to be on the stage at 1 o'clock, and he's going to dive deep into this. So I highly recommend that session. So let's move on to the second issue here, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this one. The fact that people do not know that a lot of these AI features exist. And so this is something that we've seen repeatedly in our testing with consumers on consumer available AI features. And I'm going to pick on Amazon today. So we're going to look at Amazon as a case study. If you work for Amazon, I apologize in advance. I promise I will give your company some compliments as well as some criticism. But we're going to be focusing on this shopping assistant. So Amazon introduced a shop. Who knows that? Who's an Amazon shopper and already knows that they have access to this? Okay, only a few people. Well, I'll tell you why. So we're going to look at this AI chat. And what we saw in our testing was that people really liked this. Right? Twist. People really liked this feature. Amazon shoppers really appreciated this. Now, I don't want to suggest that it's a perfect feature because it's definitely not. There are quite a few experience and usability issues with it. But overall, the user value is there. So here's what it does. It only appears to people who are signed in. I believe only Prime users, but I could be wrong. Also, they're changing this constantly, so it could have changed since then. But it appears to people who are already signed in. So it has a lot of information about you if you're an Amazon shopper. It knows what you've looked for in the past. It knows what you've looked for recently. It knows what you're looking at right now. So one participant in our study was shopping for Birkenstock sandals. And it had that context. So whenever she encountered a question, whenever she, for example, was looking for a style of Birkenstock shoes that she had seen other people wear, but she didn't know the name of the style. Whenever she had a question like that, she was able to turn to this chat. She was able to ask it things like, are Birkenstock shoes waterproof? And do Birkenstock shoes require a break-in period? That was really convenient for her, because if that wasn't there, she would have to open a new tab, go to Google, go to Reddit, watch some influencers' YouTube video. She would have to do that work herself. So this was more convenient for her. And so the user value was definitely here, and I will also tell you that the business value was here as well. So this is a quote from this participant who was looking for Birkenstock shoes. And when she searched for, are Birkenstock shoes waterproof, it told her no, they're not. But here is some lovely Birkenstock waterproofing spray that you could purchase. So it had some upselling in it as well. She liked that. Now, I don't know why it had to be special for Birkenstocks and not just like any other kind of suede waterproofing spray, but whatever, she decided to buy it. And she told me this, she said, neat. This is borderline dangerous, meaning dangerous for her wallet. So that's good for Amazon. Additionally, while this is more convenient for the shopper, because she doesn't have to open that new tab and do that research work herself, she can find answers within Amazon. That's also good for Amazon, because that means they're not risking her opening a new tab, going to Google, seeing a competitor e-commerce retailer that also offers Birkenstock shoes and getting scooped up by them. So that is an advantage for Amazon. Additionally, this allows Amazon to control which products are recommended to the user who's shopping in this category. Now, that is something they already had a lot of control over, but it's even less transparent in this context, which I'm sure is a power Amazon will definitely not abuse. So, good for the user, good for Amazon. So the user value and all those things are there. The problem that Amazon had is that people straight up did not know this thing existed. And so when I say that people didn't see it, I'm talking about both findability and usability. And if you know NN Group, you know that it would not be a true NN Group presentation if I didn't define some jargon. So I'm going to give an example here. So let's imagine that you are shopping in a grocery store. And you can tell that I used AI to create this illustration. And the way you can tell is by the nightmarish faces on these people and the absolutely insane layout of this grocery store. But imagine that this faceless, creepy shopper is you. Just put your face right there on top of this person. And imagine that you are shopping for broccoli. Healthy broccoli. That is something that you maybe already know or you reasonably expect that you could find in the grocery store. So that's findability. I might, if I'm studying the shopping experience at this grocery store, I might look to see how easily, how quickly, how simply you can move through this digital or physical space and find what you're actively looking for. That's findability. Discoverability is a little bit different. So with discoverability, maybe you're in this nightmarish, hellish grocery store, and you're looking for your broccoli, your healthy broccoli, and on the way to your broccoli, you happen to come across and notice a delicious bar of chocolate. Now, were you actively looking for that bar of chocolate? No. But now that you see it, are you going to buy it and eat it immediately? Yes, you will. That is discoverability. So when we study discoverability, we're looking to see if people can notice and understand content or features that they didn't already expect to be in the system. And this is particularly relevant to these AI features because a lot of companies are hiding their AI chocolate bars right now. So the way that we set up this study is we started by letting people, we did it very exploratory, very open-ended, because we wanted to see people's natural choices and behavior. So we just let people shop on Amazon for whatever they were looking for whatever they actually wanted to buy in their real lives. So for example, shopping for a vacuum cleaner. And we were wondering if some people would maybe mention that they had used this AI chat before, or happen to stumble across it, notice it, and decide to use it. That did not happen in our study. People did not proactively notice and decide to use this AI chat. So we took a note of that. We're like, okay, discoverability, not very good. What about findability? And so we told our participants as part of the study protocol, there is an AI chat in here. See if you can find it. We watched them flail around this website in vain People could not find it even when they were actively looking for it. So eventually, in every single session, we had to point out where it was in the UI. Do you happen to see where you would click? It's all the way up here. It's this button labeled Rufus. Now imagine, you are shopping for a vacuum cleaner. You're just trying to make a choice, make a purchase, move on with your life, and you see this button up here. Are you likely to pause in your activity and go and click it and say, I wonder what Rufus is? I wonder if that could be valuable in my task. No, you're not likely to do that, which is a shame because after we dragged people to this feature and showed them where it was, once they actually used it, they really appreciated it. Again, not a perfect feature, but it did have a lot of value for them. But the issue was that if I had not been there, if our researchers had not been there, they would not have found it on their own. That is a problem for Amazon, because I will not be sitting next to every single Amazon shopper being like, hey, did you know there's this thing that you can click? So I'm going to play a short clip from our testing. This is going to be that participant that I showed you that was shopping for Birkenstock's shoes. So this is at the end of her session. She's been using this thing called Rufus for about 10, 15 minutes. And we asked her a question. We asked her to reflect on how easy or difficult it was for her to find this thing.
It's easy when you showed it to me. I've never heard of Rufus before, so I had like no idea what that was. So off the get-go, I probably would have just ignored it, just because like even looking at it still, like I don't know what Rufus is, unless after using it, I know what it is. But off the get-go, I have no idea what that is.
So I love that. After she's been using it for a while, she still is like, actually, looking at it again now, even still, I don't really know what this is. So that is a problem. And I have to tell you, it is not limited to our participants, because what I noticed, was that people were turning to social media to teach each other that this thing existed.
I just recently discovered that Amazon has Amazon Rufus. Before I tried it, I had to look it up to understand exactly what it was and what it does. And according to an article published by Amazon on February 1st.
Okay, it is not a good sign when people describe noticing your feature as having discovered it, like it's a discovery. It's not a good sign when they have to teach each other that this thing exists and show each other how to find it. And it is definitely not a good sign if they have to go to your own company's press releases to figure out what it is and how they're supposed to use it. So quite a few problems here. I am picking on Amazon quite a bit, but I do want to clarify that it's not just limited to Amazon. This is a problem that we've seen over and over again when companies are introducing new AI features into their interfaces. And especially, we find this is especially true if it's an interface that people are already very familiar with and comfortable with. So Google is a good example of this. We just wrapped up another study where we were specifically looking at how people use AI to help them search for information. So not so much shopping, more finding information. And when people used Google's AI mode, they loved it. People were telling us, I'm so glad you showed this to me. I can't wait to use this. I'm planning a trip and I can't wait to come back and use this thing. But again, they only knew about it because we showed it to them. So what is going on here? Why is this happening in different products and different features? We have a few theories. First is people just don't expect these features. They're not really like looking for them. You know, today and this week, and maybe for the last like 2 years, you have been thinking about AI a lot because partially we're getting pressure from leadership to think about AI, to learn about AI, to integrate it into our work as well as our products. But for most people, they're really not doing that. Yeah, they've heard of AI, maybe they've seen news stories about AI, but they're not like actively attuned to like, oh, there's a sparkles icon. There's something new, something AI that I can test out. That's just not happening. Partially that's because people are task-focused. This is another thing that we already knew, right? We didn't have to wait for AI to know that this was a thing. People, when they're using most digital products, unless it's like an entertainment context, they're just trying to get stuff done. They just want to complete a transaction or find information, make a decision, and then they want to move on with their lives. So they're not going to take that time to go, Rufus, that sounds intriguing. I'll take a look. And finally, one of the biggest problems we're noticing is that the designers of these features, in many cases, are making rookie mistakes. Just basic design mistakes that have absolutely nothing to do with like LLMs or anything like that, not even the features themselves sometimes. So let's zoom in on Amazon's Rufus and take a look at this particular example. What's wrong with this? Any rookie mistakes that you notice? Talked about a few of them. The name, yeah, that's a big one. What else? Shout it out. Feels like it's an add-on. Why is it in the middle of the product categories? That's not where we expect to find a chat button. What's happening with this icon? So there's a couple of issues here. Some of the major ones are it's using a non-standard icon. So we can see that this is a riff on the sparkles emoji icon, which, by the way, is only just now for most consumers becoming recognizable that it means something to do with AI. And they don't really know anything other than that. It's just something to do with AI. Who the fuck is Rufus? That name carries no information, and they didn't have to do this, right? And they already have another anthropomorphized smart assistant thing, Alexa. Why did we need another one? Finally, it's in a non-standard location. Now, if only we had a standardized expected place where users were familiar with finding chats and they knew where to look for them. Oh, wait, we do. And it's in the exact opposite location on the screen of where Amazon placed this. So I think this is really important. AI is a brand new interaction paradigm. It's unlike anything we've seen before. That is true. But we can understand that people are going to be having to learn how to use this thing. And as design professionals, we can make that process a little bit easier. So if we know that people have these mental models, this understanding of your product and how it works and what they can find there and how they're supposed to use it, and we know we're about to throw some AI in there and fuck it all up, we already know that that's going to happen. Why do we then additionally have to confuse people by violating these design best practices and standards for seemingly no reason? Right? Why would we make it harder than it really has to be? So they're not seeing these things in the interfaces, and there's also this problem that they don't really know how to use it. Really pisses me off when I hear people say that conversational interfaces are the easiest to use, the most intuitive. This is essentially a blank box to most people. And while it might feel easy for us to understand, it's not necessarily going to feel easy for our customers. So this pisses me off because I have to say this again. And if you know NNG, we've been saying this for so long. So it would really help me if you guys would say this with me. Ready? You are not the user. Yes, thank you. Because, thanks. One clap. Because while people are using these interfaces and they can kind of use them, they're essentially just treating them like smarter search. And all of the functionality and the capabilities, the things they could be using these systems for, they're essentially invisible to people. And so what we're seeing is people are doing prompt engineering that looks like this. Refrigerator with 2 freezer doors, why? What does that look like? That's a search query. And of course it is, because we've spent years telling people, oh no, don't use full sentences. You have to use keywords. And now all of a sudden we're saying, no, don't use keywords. You have to write paragraphs. You have to give it all the context, which is really cognitively difficult, by the way. Technology changes quickly, but people don't. Now, people do adapt as technology changes, but they do it slowly. We're starting to see this adaptation, but it's going to take a while. And in the meantime, I really want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be a chat. An open-ended AI chat, in many cases, is like being like, here's some AI, you figure out what you can do with it. You figure out how it's useful for you. So in our testing, we see that smaller scoped AI features, even things like this summary of reviews that requires no interaction at all, those actually perform really well because they're built into someone's existing workflow. They don't require any work. So looking at this list of 3 things, and maybe you've been thinking this throughout the entire presentation. Maybe you've been thinking, Kate, aren't these things that would be problematic and would get in the way of AI adoption for any feature, not just AI? And you would be correct. And that is because we design with technology, but we design for people. So yes, AI is new and exciting and different, and there are all of these new paradigms and things we have to figure out, but all of our old design skill sets are still really valuable. And it really scares me. Think back to all of those AI questions that I showed you at the beginning. It really scares me when I see companies that are slashing their research budgets, because right now is the time for more research. We have more questions than ever before. And we're going to figure these things out collectively as an industry, but it's going to take some time. I mean, looking back at these questions, how do we avoid these things? Exploratory and evaluative research can help us avoid these problems. We just have to use those things. So I want to leave you, I'm being rushed off the stage. I want to leave you on a positive note. And if you want to connect with me, follow NNG, see what we've already been publishing on AI and also things other than AI. Feel free to check out that QR code with links. But I just want to really leave you with a positive message that we already have the skill set and the tools that we need to make AI experiences that are enjoyable, usable, valuable, pleasant for our users, and also profitable for our companies. We have all the tools that we need, we just have to use them. Thank you.